Hi everyone, my name is Revati Rangachari. I am the Technical Account Manager for MySQL, working with Oracle for the last 7 years. And I manage some of the large accounts that use MySQL as their core database, especially in the Indian government sector. Today, I'm going to talk about how to install MySQL in a Windows operating system. I have already downloaded the MySQL required package here. What I have downloaded is the MySQL version 8.0.20. That is the latest version. I am going to first extract this package so that I get the MSI installer file to begin our installation, right? That is done. Now let me double click on this MSI installer file, and that will start installing MySQL in your Windows operating system or on your laptop, wherever you want the installation to be done. You can say yes to this. The installer is asking your permission to install the package. Let's wait for the installer to extract all the files that is required to go through the installation process. You can say yes here also. Now the installer has started its process. You can choose yes here if you have already an Oracle SSO account. If not, you can choose no and then click on next here. These are the various options that you have for what kind of server that you want, developer default or server only or client only. I am going to select the full installation now, which includes all the packages of the server. So now the installation has started, and just look at the packages that it is installing, and then just say next. And if some uh, components are missing in the Windows operating system that is needed by the MySQL, it is going to ask your permission to install those components. You can say yes here. And what you see here is the list of what are all the products that will be installed as part of your MySQL installation. You can just start executing here. So the components, a brief introduction. This is the actual server, MySQL server. Workbench is the GUI tool which will allow you to administer your MySQL databases. Notifier, of course, is the installer file. Enterprise backup is a tool that will allow you to take hot online backups. MySQL shell is for accessing the MySQL database through a MySQL client, and that is not the only use of the shell. It can also be used to create InnoDB clusters. Um, and then MySQL router, again a component that will be used by the InnoDB cluster. And these are all the various connectors that will be used by your application to connect to the MySQL database. And MySQL documentation is already included, and some samples and examples to test your MySQL databases. So you say execute here. It will start installing the components one by one. This may take some time to complete the installation. Um, Let us be a little more patient and start watching what are all the components it's installing. And as soon as the installation is over, it should give you a status as complete here, right? So while it is installing, a little bit on the MySQL history. So MySQL was, as you know, we just celebrated the 25th anniversary of the MySQL database, which means this was invented about 25 years ago. When it was invented, it was, basically a MySQL AB company with a few dedicated engineers who developed on exclusively making this server or the MySQL work better as a RDBM. And from then it has been continuously evolving, and we had uh, 3.x and then 4.x and then 5.x, and now we are in 8.x, right? MySQL AB was acquired by Sun Microsystems, and later on it was acquired by Sun Microsystems was acquired by Oracle in 2010, and from then on there has been continuous improvements in the MySQL databases, which was keeping in trend or in requirement with the with the mostly with the customers and also with the community. So MySQL kept adding more and more features to it, and make it. Some of the features are also borrowed from Oracle, and in 5.7, we also introduced NoSQL feature to MySQL, that is the MySQL document store, which enables you to store JSON objects as a JSON object in the MySQL database, which means that your MySQL tables can have a relational data as well as a document based data. Usually customers go for a document store, a separate document store to store the JSON documents. And there has been continuous requests for feature requests from the customers and the users for MySQL to be able to store JSON also as part of its database. So we have added that feature from 5.7 onwards. So it's not only limited to that, there are a lot of HA features also that has been added, and the main one being the InnoDB cluster, which is nothing but which gives you a high availability of the MySQL database. Um, what can I say? That can provide you fault tolerance, automatic failover, uh, redundancy, like there can be 3 or 5 or 7 or 9 MySQL nodes within a MySQL cluster, InnoDB cluster. And the MySQL shell, as I already said, is the main component which is installing now, as you can see, is the main component to create InnoDB cluster, as well as to manipulate your JSON documents directly from the MySQL shell interface. And this interface has got a special protocol to handle the JSON documents, which is called the X protocol, which is based on the protobuf messaging technology. And it has also got an XDev API, which makes the communication from the MySQL shell to the underlying MySQL server much easier, much faster, and easily understandable. If you see the commands in the MySQL shell, they are all mostly like English-like commands, very easy to understand. And this has got a utility called the DBA utility, and another utility called the util, which will have a lot of functions that will allow you to manipulate or allow you to execute commands against the MySQL server, or create JSON objects and all. Another interesting feature of this utility is that it has got an upgrade checker, which will allow you to check whether your server, the existing server, is ready for MySQL upgrade. Of course, this can work for upgrade from MySQL 5.7 to 8.0. And that will tell you what are all the changes that you may require before you want to upgrade your server from 5.7 to 8.0. You can carry out those changes to the server and then easily proceed for your upgrade to the next higher version. Uh, almost the installation, all the products has been completed. So you click on next here, and now it is actually configuring the server. So what does that mean? That MySQL server has a default configuration file which is called the my.ini. This will this will update the my.ini file to make the server ready to be used as a MySQL server for you. Here you have the HA features. So it is asking you an option again here. Either you want to have a standalone MySQL server with a classic MySQL asynchronous replication, or InnoDB cluster. InnoDB cluster, I will have a separate video for that. So for the time being, I'm going to say standalone MySQL server, because InnoDB cluster by itself is a big topic and it has got lot many features to discuss. So that will be for another video. Now let us proceed with the standalone MySQL server, classic MySQL replication. So here it is going to ask the configuration type. You want to have it as a development computer or a server computer or a dedicated computer. I want it as a server computer, so I am selecting that. And MySQL by default, it requires a port to run as any other software. So the default port for MySQL is 3306, and this is the X protocol 33060. I was talking about document store, right? So this is the protocol that will be used by the MySQL shell to communicate with the server. So 33060 is the X protocol port for the MySQL shell to communicate with the MySQL server. You can leave the named pipe and the shared memory to its default name. We are not, if you want, you can change the name, but I'm going to leave it as MySQL. And if you want to install MySQL Enterprise Firewall, which is again nothing but a product that will allow you to whitelist the MySQL queries, I'm going to install that. So I'm going to check that box. And if you want advanced logging operations, you can always do that, but we'll skip for that now, and click on next. And here you can use a strong password encryption for authentication. So from MySQL 8 onwards, we are supporting the SHA-256 based password methods. So we will stick to the default password authentication and say next. And here you will want to give a root password for you to access the MySQL server. I am going to give a password here. Please try to remember this password, because you will need this to log into your MySQL server the first time that you are going to access through the MySQL client. For ease of remembrance, I am giving the password as welcome1 and the apostrophe symbol. That is, you can give any password that you want. So then if you want to add users to access the MySQL database, you can add a user here. We recommend that you add a admin user, so that you don't have to use the root user to access the MySQL database. Root user should always be a protected user. So you access the server as an admin user for better security, for want of better security. So I am giving a password for the admin user also here, and say OK. So my admin user will be created, and press next. And this will be the Windows service name, MySQL 80. We can leave it with a default. You want to run the Windows service as a standard system account user. I will stick to the standard system account user. Click on next, and now your server is ready to be configured. Click on execute. So the server is getting configured for for you to use it as a MySQL server machine. It's initializing the databases. So MySQL by default has four databases. That is the MySQL database, which stores all the user information, table information, and all. And it has got a performance schema, it has got a sys schema, and it has got an information schema, which is nothing but the table metadata schema. Now it has completed the installation. I'm going to click on finish now. It has started MySQL as a Windows server, and you should get this message. The configuration for MySQL Server 8.0.20 was successful, and click on finish. Now it says configuration is complete. Now it's going to configure the other components, that is the MySQL router. Click on next, and Bootstrap MySQL router for use with InnoDB cluster. We are going to skip that for now because we haven't installed the server as a InnoDB cluster server. So that will be, as I said earlier, that will be a separate video on how to create an ODP cluster while installing the MySQL server itself. So I'm going to finish, click on finish now. And now next is samples and examples. You can, now this is a standalone server, and you can, you need to give the root password that you gave in the previous steps, and you can say whether your connection to the server is successful. Now it says the connection is successful. We are good here. So next, check if there are any install features that need configuration. We'll allow MySQL server to check that. So just say execute, and it's running the required scripts for the server to work. That's also done. So now you click on finish. All configuration complete. Now we click on next. Uh, we are almost done with the installation. You should get this message, installation complete. Now click on finish, and it will start the MySQL workbench from which you can access the MySQL server. So this is the MySQL shell that we were talking about. It has by default opened the shell for you. Through this you can access your MySQL server, or for the time being we are going to access the server through the MySQL workbench. So let me see whether I am able to start the workbench. So it is starting by itself. So here you can have the connection to the MySQL server added by clicking the add symbol. I think I have already added this once, so I'm just going to click on this and see whether I'm able to connect to my server from the workbench. We are connected. So a little bit on the workbench interface here. So these are the management options that you can do to manage your server. These are startup and shutdown. You can start up and shut down your server using the MySQL workbench. And these are the performance schema that I was talking about. So you can view the performance of your server through the workbench also. For example, let us click on the dashboard. It will give you a graphical representation of the MySQL server performance. What you see here is audit inspector, firewall, online backup. They are all MySQL commercial features that will allow you to audit your MySQL database. Firewall, as I said, it would whitelist the queries that are coming to your servers, and online backup is the online backup. All these can be managed through the MySQL workbench. That is a great advantage of the workbench feature. Right, so we have come to the completion of installing the MySQL database server on your Windows operating system. This will end my installation process. Thank you for watching, and good day, everybody.